All roads lead to Donald Trump. Special edition of The Breakdown starts now. Welcome to our January 6th edition of The Breakdown. Today was the final hearing, from what we understand, of the January 6th committee. And I've got to tell you that, Rick, it was pretty extraordinary to just watch it all come to this crescendo and end on the note of the committee issuing a subpoena for Donald Trump to come testify. We all know that he's not.
That is the final entry of the finding out phase.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. We all know Trump is going to ignore that, but they needed to do it to make sure that people understood history, that they can't say that they didn't give Donald Trump an opportunity to defend himself, since that's what Republicans have complained about all this time. Oh, well, no one's defended. Well, Mr. President, here you go.
Here's you got your wish, dude.
That's right. Here's your opportunity. Come and give your side of the story. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
To America,
yeah,
folks, Donald Trump has been subpoenaed. This does not mean he will ever cooperate with a subpoena. He will die before he goes unscripted before anybody, a committee or lawyers or anyone. He does not want you to see what other people have seen. Look, I've watched a lot of Trump deposition footage over my lifetime from his real estate cases and other things. And when Donald Trump is behind closed doors with just the camera, he's a much smaller figure. And it's like, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, which I was told is only done by criminals.
Right. Told by Donald Trump himself.
In fact.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And I have to say, I mean, there were in the beginning of the hearing, there was a lot of kind of going back over things that we'd already knew, but it was important for people to hear it again. And since the last hearing, there's been more context. More witnesses have come forward. They had more emails from the Secret Service. Something that stood out to me in the first half of the hearing was the fact that it looks like the Secret Service is in some trouble. Maybe a couple guys like Ornato and Engel who said, "Oh, we didn't know anything about this," and
there are no records.
There's no records, and it looks to me like there might be some obstruction of justice charges brewing here, based on what Aguilar said, and which I think is interesting, and it needs to happen. The inconsistency here and the protection of Donald Trump and what happened on January 6th and the lead up to it is just absurd. I mean, it was a freaking coup attempt against our government. It hands down. I mean, there's no question anymore, Rick. I mean, you look at this, if you didn't watch any of the other hearings and just watch this one, how you can come to the conclusion that Donald Trump didn't know, that he didn't have people who enabled it and also knew, or that this wasn't premeditated. Like, how anyone can come to that conclusion, any other conclusion other than that Donald Trump knew. He knew that it was an election lie. He knew what he was doing. They knew that it was premeditated violence on January 6th, and he sat back and let it happen. And there were people around him who facilitated and enabled it.
I think the service is, one of the most vital institutions in Washington, D.C. Protecting the president is a national security mission of the highest order. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it looks very clearly to me that the responsibilities they had were getting clouded with the desire not to offend Trump or not to point out that they were getting tips coming in about the severity and the danger and the potential for not just violence, but armed violence and gun violence. It's a moment. There needs to be a really hard soul searching at the agency. I think. I think it is a moment of
100%,
because it is so important. And I don't want to demean the thousands of people who work for the Secret Service who do their job every day protecting not only the president but other designees throughout government. It's just an astounding betrayal and a politicization of an organization that should absolutely be completely apolitical.
100%. And they're getting a new director. And it'll be a female director. She's been in the agency for a long time, from what I understand. But she's got a lot on her hands. I hope that she is able to kick ass and take names where she needs to and straighten the organization up, because if you cannot have members of the Secret Service engaged in a political conspiracy like this covering. You just cannot. You cannot lose. You cannot lose faith in an institution like that. That's so critically important. And something else that I thought was really compelling that we saw in the beginning, because a lot of the questions I think that were still unanswered, and there's even one major one for me that's still unanswered, which is even though we saw the predicate for all of these agencies knowing ahead of time, the intelligence was coming in weeks before this,
correct,
that there could be violence on this day, very specific and targeting Pence. Why in the hell was the National Guard not at the ready in place? We still don't have that answer. And I think that the American people need to have
it. We have that answer. We just haven't seen it outlined yet.
Right. We suspect we know what the answer is.
All roads lead to Kash Patel in the Pentagon at that time.
Right. That's right.
I am very confident that if they thought anything could stand in the way of their violent attempt to overthrow the election, that could be stopped by the National Guard, that the brakes would have been slammed on. I mean, let's not forget, Mike Flynn's brother was still working in the Pentagon that day.
Correct.
This is not a, and again, as a guy who worked in the Pentagon very proudly, this is not supposed to be the playground for a president's political destiny.
Right.
The mission of the country should come first. And I think that it is extraordinarily dangerous to believe that that we've gotten to the bottom of all these things with this last hearing. I hope that as the report comes out, and I hope that as the committee prepares for an inevitable transition of some kind in January, that we end up so that the material and the discovered items here are not buried by Jim Jordan or whoever is running the new special committee, which will focus all of its attention on the critical national security issue of Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right. If Republicans take back over in Congress, that's true. And I think also, wasn't Mark Esper the SecDef at the time?
Esper was still Secretary of Defense at that time.
So Esper had time to write a freaking book, right? Didn't he write a book too?
He did.
But he has not come forward and been honest about the fact that he was told to stand down, or that they were told that they didn't. I mean, it's just so incredulous what these people have done. And it's just so disrespectful to the people who were on the ground, the law enforcement officers on the ground that were putting their lives on the line and who were completely unprepared for this because they didn't have the support of the federal government behind them, thanks to Donald Trump and Kash Patel and all the other flunkies that went along with this, that wanted to see this happen. You know, Liz Cheney said something very important in the beginning. She said, we cannot just punish the foot soldiers of January 6th.
That's right.
We must hold the planners, the enablers, the financiers, the people in power accountable too. And that's, I think, Tara, the most important part of all of this.
Tara, I think that is such a key element of this, such a key point to make, is that, you know, listen, do I want to see these Yahoo guys who threw fire extinguishers at cops get some prison time? Absolutely. 100%. Who do I really want to see get prison time? The organizers, the planners, the plotters, the schemers, the Roger Stones, the Alex Jones, all these people, the Steve Bannons. Those people were engaged, and frankly, Mark Meadows, those people were engaged in a conspiracy to overthrow an election in America. In America. And if you don't punish people who try to conduct a coup, it is not a coup. It's a training exercise. And they will try it again. They will cheat again. They will try to find a way to exaggerate their fantasies into a reality that motivates their voters into violent action.
They're telling us this. Don't take our word for it. They're telling us
that was exactly where I was going, Kara. And they're not even hiding it. They're saying it outright. They're saying it outright. When you have people saying, well, you know, if Donald Trump gets indicted, the violence is on you, man. I'm sorry.
Trump has said it.
That's not a country with the rule of law and a democratic system.
That's right.
That's
Trump has said it.
Republic.
And they telegraphed this in 2020 also. They're doing it even more so now because no one's really been held accountable for it. I mean, they showed the clips of Steve Bannon and his shit-eating grin about what's going to happen on January 6th and how he's bragging to people about back in October, as early as October, about what could happen and what Trump is going to do. There was testimony today that they had plans as early as July of 2020 that Trump was just going to declare victory, and whatever hell broke loose after that, well, whatever. I mean, and so when we look at it now, after seeing all of this evidence and we see the timelines coming together, and we think about it back then in real time when we heard about the people being installed like Kash Patel and the others at the Defense Department and all these rearranging of staff in these key positions. It was all in the lead up to January 6th and to try to keep Donald Trump in power through extrajudicial means. It's just pretty remarkable that more people aren't up in arms over this.
Yep. And Tara, look, there is a degree to which the Republicans today were starting to try to eye roll this committee out of existence. We have nothing new here. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something. The things they're producing, the things they have on tap still behind closed doors, hopefully for the report, they need to be transmitted. Either the president needs to empower a presidential commission, which he can do by executive order.
President Biden, yes.
Stroke of a pen. President Biden can do that in a hot second.
That's true.
And the committee, before the Republicans take over, can say, well, hello, take our servers, take our data, take the material we've got. Y'all go do your thing. And if you really want to fuck with Donald Trump, name Liz Cheney to the head of the commission, Mr. President.
Yeah.
That would be a smack that would drive them nuts. But I come back to this. We see that material from Roger Stone encouraging Trump to take full control. Just declare martial law, take full control, declare the election invalid. I'm sorry. I am done with these people, Tara. I am done with them.
I know.
And if you think I'm profane, folks, if you think I've got a nasty mouth on me, you think I've got a bad tongue, you know why? Because these people piss me off. Because these people are the motherfuckers who are trying to burn this country to the ground. And if you don't feel passionately about it, if you don't feel intense about it, you're in the wrong business. And I got to tell you, when I saw that thing, I was reminded of it again when I saw the tweet resurface about this hearing of Stone saying to take control. If you want to send a message, you get that guy indicted. You get Roger Stone and Steve Bannon and Alex Jones and Enrique Tarrio and Stuart Rhodes and the rest of these scumbags involved in this conspiracy, and you put their asses in jail.
Yes.
Now, look, you're going to have to build a special facility because Roger basically is such a degenerate herpes bag that you're going to have to stick him in a special toxic waste holding area. But the rest of these people need to go to prison. They have committed acts in an attempt to overthrow this government. This committee, God bless it, it did better than I possibly hoped it could.
Agreed.
It hasn't gotten to the point now. And I hope these referrals and these subpoenas will help drive this toward a final conclusion. And the Justice Department, I know they move slowly and deliberately. But guys, we're 26 days from an election.
Yeah.
If the Republicans win the House and they've got a good shot at it, guess what? All this doesn't just go away. They're going to flip the script and they're going to start investigating DOJ,
absolutely,
FBI,
and they're going to tie up.
They're going to go after us. They're going to go after everybody.
That's right. And I just don't know why they're still pussyfooting around. They can expedite things if they want to. The January 6th committee has done most of the legwork for them. I just don't know at this point why they're pussyfooting around, because these guys are laying the predicate. Why Roger Stone and others are still walking around not under indictment right now, I just don't get it. I know that the federal grand juries have been meeting, people have been testifying, there's things happening, but I share the frustration with others about the pace of it at this point. Because once the balance of power changes, if it does in November, you're right, all of this goes away and people will not be held accountable. And then the American people who are not insurrectionists, who are looking at this going, what are we going to do? No one ever pays a price for this, and it just gets worse. So that's my biggest fear in all of this. And I got to tell you that, speaking of holding people accountable, when I said that in the beginning here that they knew that there is no myth anymore that this was some spontaneous tourist trip gone wrong.
Right.
Okay. That is a bunch of bullshit. And any Republican that keeps trying to make it seem like that and that it was not armed, like Ron Johnson and others who are still trying to perpetrate that lie.
Data, they found someone with a rifle
Multiple people. There were
Yeah.
multiple people arrested that morning with weapons on them. So this is bullshit that it wasn't armed. But we also know, thanks to the Secret Service communications that have now come to light, not the text messages, but emails that they obtained, that they knew as early as December that there was potential danger, violent danger that day, specifically to protectees. I want to show this part. I believe it was Adam Schiff's portion of the testimony. This is unbelievable.
This email, for example, was an alert that the Secret Service received on December 24th with the heading, "Armed and Ready, Mr. President." According to the intelligence, multiple users online were targeting members of Congress, instructing others to march into the chambers on January 6th and make sure they know who to fear. In this report, received on December 26th, a Secret Service field office relayed a tip that had been received by the FBI. According to the source of the tip, the Proud Boys plan to march armed into D.C. They think that they will have a large enough group to march into D.C. armed, the source reported, and will outnumber the police so they can't be stopped. The source went on to say, their plan is to literally kill people. Please take this tip seriously and investigate further. The source also made clear that the Proud Boys had detailed their plans on multiple websites, like the Donald.win.
They have, let me tell you what, these agencies all have cybersecurity intelligence departments that monitor this stuff, particularly the Secret Service when protectees are involved. And so the fact that they had this weeks in advance, and we know this now for sure. This is not Maggie Haberman reporting it. This is not coming from Axios or some Washington insiders, unnamed sources.
Right.
This is coming directly from Secret Service memos, internal memos, talking amongst themselves. Why in God's name were they not prepared to shut down DC to stop this? This could have been prevented.
There's a lot
of questions that need to be answered.
There's a story somewhere in here that we haven't reached yet, and the committee has not reached yet, about, and I think it comes down to Tony Oranto and other leaders. Ornato, excuse me.
Who was forced into retirement, by the way, recently.
Yeah. But there's a belief in all authoritarian regimes that, the state is me. L'État c'est moi. They are the ones who they believe that everything is about the dear leader, and they've had some sort of either perception or belief or inclination that Trump wanted this. They were letting it happen because they believed Trump wanted this. I will not be shocked if we someday discover that Mark Meadows called and said, "Yeah, there might be some there might be some edge cases out there, but it'll be okay. They're not going to hurt the president." And remember, Trump said it himself when they found people with weapons trying to go through the mags for the oval, the ellipse rally. Let them in. They won't hurt me.
Right. They're my people.
They're my people. They won't hurt me. There's a predicate there that is unspoken, but they will hurt people I tell them to hurt. They will hurt my enemies. They will hurt people who get in my way. They will hurt people who oppose me stealing an election.
Mm-hmm. And they said so in the communications that were also shown during the committee, where they said that they were prepared to kill people. Right. That's what the tipster from the on the FBI tip line said. For the love of God, please take this seriously. They're prepared to kill people. This was not unknown. This was not unknown that day. We also know, and thankfully, these Oath Keeper bastards and some of these Proud Boys bastards are currently on trial right now for seditious conspiracy, and hopefully they get 20 years in prison because they deserve it. But we also know that they had the quick reaction forces waiting in Virginia. We have talked about this before. We talked about it at the time. It has been reported, but now we know that the law enforcement officials knew it as well, that they were mustering in Virginia, ready for Donald Trump's order, ready for him to invoke the Insurrection Act, which he was being pushed to do, which, shockingly, he didn't do it. Well, I think because there was
part of the fantasy of the John Eastman, Sidney Powell, Roger Stone axis of dumbassery.
Right.
But we've talked about this.
We have the clip, actually. We have the clip. Let's
good. Yeah, play that.
Later, on the evening of January 5th, the Secret Service learned during an FBI briefing that right-wing groups were establishing armed QRFs, or quick reaction forces, readying to deploy for January 6th. Groups like the Oath Keepers were standing by at the ready should POTUS request assistance.
Don't believe us. Believe the Secret Service.
This idea that an armed paramilitary group got a pass by the Secret Service is a revelation, I think, that should shake Americans to the core.
Yeah.
It should scare the crap out of people. They should say, oh, God, what could have happened? And let me tell you what could have happened. Very bad things. We've talked about this many times on this show. There could have been deaths at a scale that far exceeds the tragedies of that day.
On
there
both
could have
sides.
been hundreds of people killed if these assholes had come in and rolled in hard with guns.
Yep, that's absolutely true. And
now the only satisfaction I have on that is that an awful lot of these cosplay dipshit Meal Team 6 a-holes would have assumed room temperature thanks to the Capitol Police. But
but imagine the tragedy.
Such a risk and such a danger.
Such a danger. And we saw newly released footage of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, some Republican senators there in real time, trying desperately to get somebody on the phone to do something about what was happening. And you could just see they're like, can you believe this? Do you believe? I mean,
they were so stunned by it. And can you blame them?
No,
it's still, I remember when we were talking so much that day, going back and forth all morning and all afternoon about, it's like, oh my God, can you fucking believe this?
I still can't believe it, actually. Watching, every time we watch these hearings and they show the footage of it, I still can't believe it. I still have a physical, visceral reaction to what I see on screen where I'm like, I cannot believe this happened. And I cannot believe that the American people are still entertaining one iota of anything Donald fucking Trump has to say. This guy is a traitor. He is a treasonous traitor, liar, conspiracy theory degenerate. And every single person that continues to support him and what Trumpism stands for is part of this. This is so un-American. And they cloak themselves in the idea of the flag and patriotism when this is the absolute antithetical, complete opposite of what it is to be a patriotic American in this country. And yet we have an entire Republican Party that is still making excuses for this and dismissing it as if it was not a big deal.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't know what it's really going to take for the American people to wake up and realize this. I mean, we can't impeach Donald Trump again, right? But they can pursue criminal charges. I know.
A bonus third impeachment? Anyone?
I know. Instead of slinking away in shame, he wears it with a badge of valor, and his people, his cultists, continue to hold it up as some type of badge of valor. It's the world turned upside down, Rick. It really is. But I think what most people want to know is, will there be accountability? And I think based off of the way that this committee has laid things out, the fact that it was very clear that Trump knew he lost. He knew the election wasn't stolen. He was well aware early on that 60 plus cases had been rejected by the courts. Right. We saw that he flipped out when the Supreme Court said no, also. Yeah, no, sorry. And he did it anyway. He moved forward with the plan anyway, and he had enough people around him who were willing to say, yes, Mr. President, and entertain this fantasy. And every one of those people should be referred criminally to the Department of Justice. I think that's ultimately what we're going to see.
I think so. And the fact is, Merrick Garland is moving this slow, methodical way. And I get it. And I want to just express frustration from the audience. I'm getting messages from people basically saying, why can't we do it now? With what we've learned today. Look, guys, if I could get into Merrick Garland's head and tell him what to do, I sure as hell would. But
there's a great piece right now in the Atlantic about Merrick Garland. I suggest people go read it. It's very informative.
Of how methodical and restrained and quiet he is, but also that he's very determined.
Right.
I hope we get there. I hope he gets there. And look, I hope Donald Trump, we can bring it to the 20th thing on him by having a contempt thing with this with refusing this subpoena.
Yeah.
But we really are, folks. It's important, I think, to go back at some point and review what you've learned during these hearings, and we'll put some stuff out about that in the next few days, about what we've learned as a timeline of these hearings, what the revelations were, because they have been stretched over a long period of time. They have been stretched over months and months, and so it's easy to let all the other chaos slip in and sort of wash away what you learned before. But it's important to keep these things top of mind and to keep track of them. And it also, I want to say one more thing, Tara, and we have an ad about this coming up.
Is it
for
ready?
all the BS that Republicans say about being tough on crime and backing the blue, what have we seen today? One more time, they don't care.
Nope.
Crime is fine. Violence is fine as long as it's in service to their political ends. So,
Yes, and here's the thing: crime is just fine when it's minorities committing those crimes, and they can use them as to demonize them and use that racial animus to forward a political agenda, right? Then it's crime, and oh my goodness, and blah blah blah. But when it's a crime by their people against the Constitution and our free and fair election,
right?
And then it's, oh no, we don't want to talk about that. That's just freedom of speech, and it was just a couple people who were a little upset. And you cannot have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot stand and say that you back the blue and look and spit in the faces of those police officers and the Capitol Hill officers and others who defended the Capitol that day, lost their careers over it, who lost their lives over it, and say that you are pro law and order. It's bullshit, and the Republicans know it.
I think we ought to run the crime ad that we've got out.
Let's run it.
I think it really says something.
One of the latest
Marco
ads that
Rubio
LP
wants you to
just put
think
out,
crime is a
pointing this
top
out.
issue in this election. So why does he spend so much time defending Donald Trump, who is at the center of 19 pending criminal and civil cases? From tax fraud to stealing classified documents to trying to violently overthrow an election, Rubio backs Trump, not law and order. He attacks the FBI and law enforcement. So much for backing the blue. That's why in the U.S. Senate, Val Demings will be everything Marco Rubio isn't. Hardworking, smart, effective, brave, and strong enough to speak out in the face of injustice. Val's record of service, bravery, and putting her life on the line for a safer Florida has always come down to doing the right thing. Val Demings fights criminals. Marco Rubio defends them.
That is a Florida ad specific to Marco Rubio and Val Demings, which could be just substitute Marco Rubio out with any one of these Senate Republicans who are running, which I presume we're going to have some version of that, perhaps in other states as well. But most importantly, you've got Marco Rubio, who should fucking know better, against Val Demings, who spent the majority of her career as a law enforcement officer and ended up the first female chief of police in Orlando. You're going to tell her that she's not pro-police?
Right.
Meanwhile, he's supporting Donald Trump.
He wears Toreador boots and she wears a bulletproof vest. Yeah. I think we know where it all stands. I think where it all comes down.
Exactly. Some of the other takeaways I think from this as well that people should care about, which I think is another area of the of this that could go criminally, is the fake elector scheme. We saw how involved, I think for the first time, Donald Trump actually was in pushing that. He can't claim that he didn't know anything about that, according to Ronna McDaniel over there at the RNC, who's now gone blonde, apparently. I don't know. I guess apparently I'm starting a trend, and lots of people are going blonde all of a sudden. I didn't recognize her. I was like, who the hell is that? But anyway, she testified that Trump called her directly on the phone with John Eastman to talk all about this. Yeah, let's get those electors together. We need them to rehearse the plan, and handed it over to Eastman. So how the hell can Donald Trump deny if he tries to say, oh, I don't know who these people were. They were just coffee people, I guess. He can't do that. His hands were directly in this, just like the recent reports about his literal grubby little hands were involved in the document issue and boxes and stuff at Mar-a-Lago. The guy was all up in it. Like I said at the top of the show, all roads lead to Donald Trump here.
Donald Trump is a volcano. He's a volcano that no matter how hot people think it is, no matter how amazing the spectacle of it is, when the fucking lava hits you, you're destroyed.
Yeah.
And everything is rolling down to these people who backed this, who knew about this, who were involved in this. They will all have a legal or political or social penalty in their lives about it. And it's never going to go away for them. They're marked by this. They're stained by this. And some of these stains don't wash out.
Yeah.
They don't just go away. You don't just get to forget about them when the hearings end, the election's over. And again, it's why it's so important to move this investigation quickly. First off, release as much as they can, and to second off, laterally move all the things they've discovered either to DOJ or through a new presidential commission, because this is not over. We haven't solved the problem yet.
Right.
This committee has not fixed the problem. And God bless them. They did hard work. They did good work, better than I expected. Okay. And I freely admitted it, much better than I thought. But it's not over and it's not done. And the risks to this country are so great. And folks, this is what I want to just remind you of the stakes here. 26 days from now, we're going to go to the polls in this country. Absentee ballots and early ballots are already going out across the nation right now in many, many states. So many of these races are razor thin margins. So many of these races are closer than they should be. It is absolutely vital that you recognize what happens if Republicans take the House. They will impeach Joe Biden. They will impeach Vice President Harris. They will investigate every single thing that has ever happened in the Biden administration that will make Benghazi look like a picnic. They will go hard after the most insane shit in the world. They will do everything they can to set up Donald Trump's 2024 campaign, which will be about conspiracy and grievance and rage and anger. And it will put us all back in the situation where we have to fight at a level that Americans have never expected to fight at before. It will make 2020 look like an easy warm-up act. I need you to remember, your vote is absolutely vital this year, especially if you live in the big democracy swing states. Please, if you are in Pennsylvania, do not sleep on the Senate race. Do not sleep on the governor's race. If you are in Arizona, in Nevada, if you are in Colorado, that race is starting to close up. Get your ass out there and do your early voting. Get your ballot in. Move fast, people.
Georgia.
It is, for all that Herschel Walker is a guy who has embarrassed himself in the world, he still is within striking distance of Reverend Warnock. Yep. You've got to take this seriously. I have seen too many Democrats out there in the last 3 months picking out curtains, taking it easy, getting ready to ascend to the heights of power again. And you don't have that. It is not in the bag. It is not there. You need to get out there and hustle, motivate your people, do what you got to do. Knock the doors, make the calls, do the social stuff, do the connection stuff, get out there. It is absolutely vital. I cannot emphasize it enough. We are on the cusp of a very bad outcome in the House, and everything that has gone on in this hearing that has been so vital for America's freedom and democracy and security going forward will be flushed down the toilet if we don't win the House.
100%. And also your state and local offices.
Yes.
They are vitally important also,
yes,
because they are trying to lay the predicate to steal the election in 2024. We talk about the tools that we use in order to fight against these people and to beat back this authoritarian march on America. If these people get into power again, we may lose those tools. We need to understand that too. Do not just think that this will still have the same free abilities to do this. They are trying to set it up so we don't. So don't just take it for granted. We have seen this before in history, and it does not end well. People wake up and go, "How did we get here?"
Right. What happened? Oh,
right. How does that? What do you mean we can't we can't organize anymore? What do you mean we can't vote if we're not Christian nationalists? Or what do you mean women don't have the right to make decisions about their own bodies? I mean, we are not being hyperbolic here, people. We're watching it happen before our eyes, but we also still to this day have the tools to stop it. So let's make sure we use them. And
Absolutely.
I think that is our public service announcement for today.
Our public service rant for the day.
That's right. That's our Lincoln Project service announcement for the day. And we just wanted to encourage people that Lincoln Project is here. We are on the ground. We are working hard. We are thankful to everyone who is supportive of what we're doing here, and that the work continues. We've got 26 days, folks, 26 more days. Go check out the union if you want to get involved and find out areas.
Jointheunion.us.
Yeah, jointheunion.us. There's the banner if you want to get involved and volunteer in your area, and make sure you get out there and vote. Rick Wilson, thank you, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday.
See you, folks.
See you then.
Thinking about who to vote for in November? Remember this. Every Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate, every Republican candidate for Congress, everyone has said they will support Donald Trump for president if he is the Republican nominee. Even after all we've learned, the insurrection, the allegedly stolen national security documents, the crazy conspiracy theories, every Republican will support Donald Trump if he is the nominee. So if you vote for these Republicans, you are voting to help put Donald Trump back in power. You are voting for 4 more dangerous years of American betrayal, chaos, bigotry, and hate. If you vote for these Republicans, you are voting to help pardon the men and women who attacked our democracy. This November, the choice is simple. It's America or Trump.